Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808, and today we continue our series looking at who had the best 3-album run in 1990s rap. We've already discussed the merits of Ice Cube, Tupac and De La Soul, so today we're diving into another monumental run by another monumental group. Yes, we'll be discussing Gang Starr's incredible 90s records, with the hip-hop historian Matrix himself, the best memory in the rap game. Dart Adams is in the house. How are you doing, Dart? How are you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah? How's 2020 treating you, man?
It started out trash and it got way better. At the time, I expected it to get way worse. So I have no complaints.
Okay, man. Okay. Well, yeah, everyone's struggling, but we've got to maintain, and this is kind of why we're doing this, man, so people can get out of that little, negative thinking. We want to bring them some, Gang Starr love today. To clarify the run we're going to be talking about, because it can only be 3 albums. Gang Starr have a few different ones. We're going to go with 92's Daily Operation, yes. 94's Hard to Earn, and 98's Moment of Truth.
Absolutely.
I mean, that run is already heavy. Before we dive in, though, Dartman, I've been waiting to get you on the pod, so I have to ask you, mate, what's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
Laundry.
Laundry's a good one. Laundry is a good one. Rappers don't do their own laundry, do they?
I hope they do, but but just the whole process, man. It's just like, it's really mundane, but it's something you have to do. And as I was doing it, I'm just thinking that, like, I'm separating stuff. I'm getting fabric softener. I'm trying to make sure I don't put in too much liquid so that I have mostly black clothes so that it leaves a film. So yeah, man, it's the least hip hop thing you can think of. I mean, and you think about producers, they like spend hours and hours just trying to get the right hi-hat or the right kick. And it's not the same, man. Plus you gotta hold it.
It's so true. Yeah. There's no level there. There's no equal footing. But I appreciate that, man. That's really good. I enjoy that. We're gonna move on from the laundry though, man. We're gonna go in. I mean, this run, Gang Starr, I mean, before we even jump in, this is on YouTube right now. Everyone, please subscribe. Please like on YouTube. As you go, spread the word. But I'm just going to open the floor up to yourself, Dart. And I would love to hear from you why you think Gang Starr's run, this run, is the best 90s run. What you got, man?
So the first Gang Starr album, No More Mr. Nice Guy, was actually a rush job. Gang Starr had been signed since 1987 out of Boston. They signed to K-Tel. So it was Wild Pitch, K-Tel at the time. And they released about 4 or 5 singles to the point where the other guys in the group left and went back to Boston because they thought nothing was happening. So that left Keithy E, the Guru, now we just know him as Gifted Unlimited Rhymes Universal, in New York without a group. But he still was holding on to the Gang Starr name. And so there was another guy who was there in another situation on Wild Pitch. Believe it was Waxmaster C at one point, and he was with a guy also from Boston, Top Cat. But Top Cat was like, nothing's happening with this Wild Pitch deal, so he joined the armed forces. So they're both there. They're like, hey, why don't we just join forces? And they released a single as Gang Starr, because it was Gang Starr Posse and Gang Starr. And you had DJ Mark, the 45 King, on the boards. They released a single. It does okay. It does well. And finally, Stu Fine is like, hey, let's put out an album. They have already released several singles. So this album was a rush job. It gets released in early 1989. It's not June 1989. That's absolutely wrong. It was already out by February. No More Mr. Nice Guy. It doesn't chart for the longest. But what it does is it has certain singles that did well. Manifest ends up on MTV Raps, what have you. And it has certain singles that chart here and there, but not really high because the rap charts were brand new in 89. But what it does is it gets the attention of Spike Lee. And Spike Lee taps them to do Jazz Thing for his More Better Blues soundtrack.
Heavy.
That song actually does really well, gets them off their deal with Wild Pitch and gets them signed to Chrysalis EMI.
Mm-hmm.
They released their 1991, the 1990 album, Step in the Arena.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that where they really figured it all out, where Guru and Premier became the legendary group that they are known as today, was with Daily Operation in 92. So that's where I start the run.
I want to just clarify a few points, because you're saying Daily Operation is where they found their sound in comparison to Step in the Arena. Could you kind of highlight for me or break down for me, in your opinion, what was different in this record that either that wasn't in their last record or wasn't even in hip hop at that time in 92?
All right, so you look at Step in the Arena, it's like you have Step in the Arena, you have Love Sick, you have these songs that really have people like, oh, yeah, Gang Starr, like they figured something new out here. But Daily Operation is when they've finally mastered it. They've entered that level of mastery. Like, I'll say that the Gang Starr is known for being the people that really established the East New York gritty rap aesthetic and laid the foundation for it, for the Gang Starr Foundation and other groups that it influenced going forward. But when you look at Daily Operation, right, the influence is completely different, to the point where people are going, and then you also have to remember in 1991, this is right after the case with Biz Markie. So going into 1992, this is when people are finally, first time ever, going into liner notes looking for samples. And so that makes this.
There we go.
Because this cassette tape, people were going through the liner notes. This is the cassette. People were going through the liner notes looking for the names of samples. And anybody that remembers this expansive J card with all the lyrics printed in it in small print, something. There were no samples to be found.
I heard this.
No samples to be found. So you have this extensive list of all of the lyrics, back and front. Who everybody in Gang Starr Foundation is because of this picture. Who Biggest Gord is, Cosmo and everybody. But you have no clue what the hell was sampled. And I believe that this was super influential because it forced people to start looking. And another album that did the same thing on the same level is Mecca and the Soul Brother, because people went through that J card, the same thing, found no listed samples. And so it led a whole generation of what I call the new diggers on this path to gold search. And if you remember this album, there are interludes. These interludes changed the game forever. Okay. One of these interludes is called, I believe, the 1992 interlude.
Brilliant.
This ends up becoming Yes, Yes, Y'all on Heavy D's classic album Blue Funk. And what this also did was this also made people realize, oh, wait, you can put interludes on your album that people will hit you up for to buy. And the other person that did that was who? Pete Rock on Mecca and the Soul Brother.
Damn.
It influenced the whole generation of producers to try to flip things like he did or try to do that. And it restructured everybody's beat tapes too. But this album right here, and also another big reason is that this album was released in 1992, which is, as anybody knows, the first year of the next golden era.
Yeah.
It was. There's people think it's one continuous era. There was a space where we had to get to another golden era. So I think one golden era was 86 to 89, 90 and 91 were an intermediate period, and then 91. Transition phase, and then 92 to 96 were another golden era. And this album released at the top of the golden era. And to further cement why I think this is the greatest run is because there are very few groups that I have both the CD and the cassette for each of their releases.
Damn.
And I have those three consecutive albums on CD and cassette for Gang Starr. I think the only other groups I have that for Eric B. and Rakim,
Yeah.
De La Soul, Public Enemy,
Yeah.
and maybe BDP. So yeah.
Damn, man. Okay, wow. There is a lot to go in there straight away. I'm so glad you started bringing up beat tapes and those little snippets that, I mean, I'm coming at this a little bit later than yourself. I'm coming at it a little bit, just a bit more naive and not as much schooled up as maybe yourself, like with this kind of stuff. When I'm hearing stuff like the 92 interlude, where I'm hearing 24/7, 365, those are like sublime little moments, right, that almost pack more flavor in because they are so like, what was that, so fleeting, if you know what I mean. And what I thought with, I did not know, I knew about the samples not being in this liner notes, but so other people were putting them in, but when it comes to the legality of this whole thing, because I know De La Soul got caught up in that whole thing, Preemo and that were just like, screw it, we're just going to go for it. And I know he does it on, he even talks about it in Moment of Truth in the little interludes where he's getting angry at people like, why are you snitching on my samples and shit? And that kind of stuff, it was a real thing back then. So De La Soul were putting their samples in all their liner notes and everything?
Well, per my understanding is that the samples were cleared. They just didn't want to list them because what happens is people start using what's listed in the liner notes to go and just plunder everything. And then there were some things that they used so little of it that also, this is why De La Soul got in trouble. It wasn't their fault. The label and them agreed that usage is so insignificant that we don't need to clear it because no one will come for it because it's been transformed to the point where it's not recognizable as the original material, which unfortunately wasn't true.
Yeah,
it was discovered straight off, and supposedly the reason is urban legend is that it was discovered because one of the Turtles' daughters was playing the album.
You're joking me.
When you look in Ben Merlis's book, there's a cease and desist that comes directly to Tommy Boy, and I believe it's dated February 23rd, 1989. Which means it was sent 9 days after the Me, Myself, and I single was released, and about a month after the album was released, which I'm pretty sure was released January 24th, 1989, and not March 3rd, 1989, which wasn't even a Tuesday or a Friday. And it couldn't have debuted on the Billboard charts March 11th, 1989, if it was released 8 days previous. So De La Soul's been celebrating the wrong release date anniversary for as long as I can remember, and everyone can remember. And I've been correcting everybody for the last 5+ years. But
Jesus,
that's
man.
But but the other thing is that on Daily Operation, so there's a song on here called which one is it? Too Deep. So Too Deep. Now, you also hear the same thing sampled by Diamond D on a View to a Kill's album, the View to a Kill album by Shades of Lingo. The song's called Think I Give a Fuck. So, mind you, I have that cassette, and I hear I'm like, oh shit, it's the same sample from Too Deep. So I run and I start looking through the J card for the liner notes. And do you know Diamond D did not list that sample?
Whoa, okay.
So I had to find what the record was. I did find out what the record was. It was released in 1968. It took me years to find it. And when I did, I finally understood why he never listed it. Because Premier never listed it, and they were boys.
Oh,
so then that's when I understood the unwritten laws of sampling, and if you don't give it up, I'm not going to give it up. And I've written about the New Diggers between 1992 and 94, and I was in a small community. I was in a community that grew over time, had 3 different tiers that really taught each other about the do's and don'ts of sampling. Music discovery, we found, we went through it all together, and a lot of it was we were sent to these record stores and plundered our parents' collections and our friends' parents and aunts and uncles and grandmothers and grandfathers' collections, looking for sample sources due to albums like Daily Operation.
Damn, mate. First of all, right, we have a little section on this pod generally called Sample Corner, which is us just kind of digging around. It's nowhere on the level you're doing it, but it's just fun. And obviously rediscovering these 60s, 70s, 80s soul funk tracks that are on their own amazing tracks. All them heads right now are loving this this whole moment you've just given us. I know them heads are loving this. So the Sample Corner heads, big up. This is for you, man. When you're saying that then about this album, if we branch it out a little bit, first of all, what did this album do for the group? I know you're saying like it kind of made them masters of what they're good at, but as apart from that, did it give them any much more of a mainstream feel at all? Did it keep them did it solidify them as an underground? You say there it kind of gave a foundation to hardcore hip hop. What do you think the album did for them as a whole, generally?
The most important part of this album was one, establishing that Premier was one of the top producers in the entire industry / field. The second thing it did was it established the Gang Starr Foundation by introducing J. Rue the Damager and introducing the group home on I'm the Man.
Sure.
Both J. Rue and group home got signed to record deals. And they released classic albums. And they were produced by who? DJ Premier. What this album also did, when it established Premier as one of the top producers, it made him an in-demand producer. Now, for those of you that don't know, Premier had done outside production before. Those albums now are regarded as classics and must-owns, but at the time they weren't. People weren't searching for Jay, I can't remember his name, Jay something Streetwise record. They weren't searching for that. And the other album that he had worked on, which kind of set the stage for like people saying that Illmatic is the album that changed rap forever by having multiple big name producers. That's bullshit because Premier and a bunch of other guys from DITC were on the 1990 album by Lord Finesse and Mike Smooth, you know?
Right.
So, and then also if you look at Queen Latifah's album from 1989, look at who was producing on that record. That's an all-star lineup of producers. So to give that credit to a 1994 album is hilarious because that had happened several times in 5 to 6 years before Nas.
Yeah.
It's just that the difference was that Columbia had a much bigger budget for promotions.
Yeah.
And, you know, back in those days, people didn't even know when albums came out. They just bought them when they had money. But Daily Operation is the album that put Gang Starr on the map, largely because of Take It Personal and its rotation on not only BET and MTV's Yo MTV Raps, but it also kind of cracked the MTV rotation a little bit and also like ended up on like all the other video networks.
Interesting.
And then like you think about X Girl to Next Girl was a big one. So like, and then like you just like look at this album, and this is like one of those albums that just stayed in people's cars for like a year. So people have really fond memories of Daily Operation, and also it was released in 1992 when everything really jumped off, and the source named 92 like the year of the underground. So like that's one of the main things about why I peg Daily Operation as the beginning of the big run.
That's interesting, man. When you were saying there about the Take It Personal itself, the track is incredible. To this day, it's incredible. Is that their breakout record, would you say? Is that their breakout record?
I think that their breakout record is the album before it, but I think that this is like the step above record. I don't know. It's like, do you consider Thriller Michael Jackson's breakout record? No, it's Off the Wall. You know, so it's like that.
Okay, I feel you. Good analogy. That's for sure. There's so much more I want to dip into with this album as well. I think the thing you said about sampling was really interesting. I was listening to Premier interviews. We were blessed to have Premier on this podcast as well, and he was talking about his sampling generally, and he was saying back then that he was using jazz a bit more because just everyone used James Brown, and he was like, I'm going to do jazz. But I feel like in Step in the Arena and in this, it's not just jazz. Like that's another narrative that I keep hearing, that this is jazz hip hop, this is jazz hip hop, and until it gets to like Hard to Earn, it changes a little bit. But even in some of this, it's like there are a few guitar licks and stuff like that where I'm like, actually, it's not just jazz, but obviously it's predominantly. But I feel like as a producer, sometimes you have to just look at it and think, obviously he did go into that well and really dig into that mind of jazz, but I feel like there are other things that he brought to the table as well. So I just had to get that out there. I wonder what you thought about that, if that was something you thought as well, or do you think it...
When we're dealing with audiences, and especially like the media, they have to take things and make them palatable, or like make them so that they're digestible, and try to find the easy way to define it.
For sure.
So that's how Gang Starr and a bunch of other groups end up being lumped into jazz rap. That's how gangster rap was created, because they put gangster rap on NWA because they had a song called Gangsta Gangsta, when the fact of the matter is, if anybody started so-called gangster rap, it would have been Schoolie D, and then going into Just Ice. And the thing is that when that all happened, even when Schoolie D was after the fact regarded as the man who like really started gangster rap, because Ice-T came out and said, I made 6 a.m. because I was listening to nothing but Schoolie D. Then you have like Spoonie G mad because he's like, I was the first person to bring that to rap, but not the way Schoolie D did. So to the point where, of course, I'm sure you remember Schoolie D released his album, The Godfather of Rap, where he like dissed Schoolie D over saying he was the man who created the whole gangster style. You know, that's neither here nor there. But in terms of Gang Starr being called jazz rap, it was by journalists or just people trying to describe to the audience to lump something in, because again, rap had a stigma. So you don't want to lump it in with the stereotypical view of what it is. So if you say it's jazz rap and people consider jazz to be a high art, that makes them think, oh, maybe this is rap I can listen to. Maybe this is rap that's different from the norm. Maybe this is rap that I can present to other people and say, hey, this isn't art. So that's also why people attached it to jazz, unfortunately, because...
Oh, man. I can't remember who said it. I think it may have been Common, actually. I can't remember who said it, but someone called it like, it's street music, but it's elevated street music. It's the message in it, the messaging in all their rhyming. I know you talked about Too Deep, and he even talks about there, like, he's not Muslim and whatever, but he does bring a lot of that into the rhymes and stuff like that, like just a look out for the youth, makes, you know, a consciousness to it all. And I feel like when you are talking about jazz, it is interesting how people put jazz on a pedestal, and like maybe not back when it was actually being made, but definitely through the decades. I remember growing up and people like, oh, jazz is like an elevated art form of music. Bang. They then imprint it onto an elevated form of hip hop, where people are looking at, because you can call a lot of that stuff is elevated, but I feel like this is a bit more conscious, if that, for want of a better word. So, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with jazz rap. And damn, like it, not just in this album, in Hard to Earn, in Moment of Truth, they do bring that same messaging over and over and over again, and that's just Guru, man, and obviously Premier's sampling of Malcolm X on shit, and fucking hell, man, that shit is crazy.
I mean, it also has a lot to do with the fact that Guru was a lot older than his peers, and Guru didn't say his age on record. Ice-T didn't say his age on record. Chuck D never said his age on record. Because at the time, again, there was no such thing. There was no such idea of a 30-year-old rapper when we were young. Your career started when you were 15 and 16. Who the hell thought that you were going to rap for 15 years?
When
LL Cool J turned 30, it was what, 1998? Think about that.
Damn.
Think about that. He didn't turn 30 until 1998.
Jeez.
You know, Jay-Z turned 30 in secret. You know, we had when Curtis Blow was past 25, they're already shoving him out the door because he was producing for 15 and 16-year-olds, the fat boys.
That's
so
crazy.
These are things. That's why Guru had been a teacher. You know, Guru had parents that were like, he had family that were educators. He had family. His parents were like well-regarded Boston people in society.
He was a judge, right? His dad was
Yes,
dad
his
was
father.
a judge?
His father was a judge.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you have to keep in mind like when he was born and when he was raised. So the reason why Chuck D and KRS-One and all these other guys sound the way they do is because they're flavored by when they were raised and the era they grew up in and what they heard on the radio and what their parents were experiencing. And he's in that group. And again, Guru was a special case. He was look at his birth date and think, oh my God, he was already 30 when he released these albums.
Yeah, and that's it. And that makes me then think of stuff like Conspiracy on here as well, where I just didn't really hear much of that kind of just
soliloquy of chaos.
Oh man, come on, go in, bro. Because I'm going to talk about most rewindables and hidden gems, but that's one of the most rewindable Gang Starr tracks of all time to me, Soliloquy. So tell me what you think of that track, man. Come on, bring it.
So when they printed the lyrics, I was like, why did they print all the lyrics for this album? Until we got to Soliloquy of Chaos, and I'm like, what? 5 Carlos Deep trying to roll to a show. You know, they make us smoke. And we didn't even get to pull equipment out. And we didn't even get to turn the place out. Did you come to see the best of the Supercast playoffs? Killing you or killing me? It's a soliloquy of chaos.
Like, the fact that he says, are you here to be a fan or are you here to be in the something playoffs? That line alone, hard. That line. Yeah, I love that.
And it's something that it's a viewpoint of an older rap fan / MC who's been through it. By the time that album came out in 1992, he'd been pursuing rap for close to a decade.
Damn.
Gang Starr starts out around like Posse Crew starts around in like 85 with him, Sugar Bear, and Suave D. You know, which is Suge's brother. So that was the first, and then later you get all the other guys. You get DJ Want to Be Down, aka Mike D. You know, you get the DJ. You know, you get like the guy who's on Gusto. So it's like everybody. You get Smitty, Lil Smitty. You know, so it's crazy, right?
When are MOP coming in here? Just out of interest, because I didn't really know. When did MOP kind of get involved with the Gang Starr thing? Do you remember?
Okay, so here's the thing with MOP, right? Are you familiar with a compilation called The Hill That's Real?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so there was a compilation released called The Hill That's Real. And on that compilation was Lil Fame.
Okay.
Lil Fame was part of MOP, Mash Out Posse's Last Generation, he kept saying. And that song was so big, and people would always listen to that song off The Hill That's Real to the point they were like, we need to give that group a deal.
Yeah.
So they signed a deal and they released their lead single, How About Some Hardcore, which was so hot that it got put in a couple of film soundtracks. And I believe it ended one of the Kid and Play movies. The closing credits for one of the Kid and Play films is How About Some Hardcore, because they were on Select Street at the time, and Kid and Play were on Select, but Select had become Select Street.
Makes sense, yeah.
And so it was like one of the most requested songs on college radio, and they kept putting the video on the box. I remember recording it straight off Rap City. I was like, yo, this is bananas. And like at school, everybody was talking about da-da! So like and they were down with Silver D and LG. So what ends up happening is they're from Brooklyn, East New York, and you know, they go on their first tours and they're with, you know, guys from the Gang Starr Foundation. They know guys like Bumpy Knuckles, Freddie Fox, and you know, they become family. And Premier becomes like their guy.
Right. Okay.
You know? So you know that's how MOP ends up a part of it. It's like the same thing with Bumpy, Freddie Fox. There's that song, The Gang Starr Tour Bus. You know, and it just breaks down the whole history of like how they all got down.
That's cool. That's wicked. Okay, right, man. I get it. So if we're going to a few of these categories I've got for you then, man, most rewindables and hidden gems or like maybe not hidden gems, but just tracks where you feel like that one needs a little bit more love than it maybe gets generally. Are there any rewindables where you think like, right, that one I still play to this day, and or hidden gems? I'm just leaving it open to you, man. What have you got for me on this album?
Well, on this album, for me, it's probably I'll say Flip the Script, because now if we want to talk about me being a Bostonian, what does it say on my shirt?
Boom. Big up.
The place where we dwell is where he starts out with Peace to Boston. And all the East Coast cities apply to me. But Brooklyn, and our heart was like, oh, because we know gurus from here, Roxbury, Dorchester. Heard him on the radio in 85 and 86 with Magnus Johnstone on Lecco's Lemma on WMBR, MIT's radio station. This is where Boston's rap scene really began to flourish around that station, and also the Street Beat radio show, which was run by the guys who ended up starting The Source, and their DJ, a man named DJ Def Jeff, now known as Jeff 2 Times, of Almighty RSO / Made Men. And also of the production outfit Hangman 3. Yeah. So that's a song where I remember listening to it, and everybody in Boston was like, well, he did say peace to Boston. You know, like at least he mentioned us. But for me, Flip the Script is the one. It's like a loop, and it goes like this show, this show, this show, this show, this show, like did it. He uses more than one part of it. And then it goes right back to the, you know, I flip. You know,
the production.
So yeah, definitely.
I like it, man. I had down most rewindable, well, and hidden gem. Although people do talk about it, but if I'm talking about the broader thing, like Bust Your Shit for me is that is incredibly hypnotic even to this day. Like that kind of production. Yeah, man. That still gets me to this day. Illest Brother is probably my track off here that I was actually walking down the street the other day and it was making me do a screw face. Like, that's crazy. And that to me is still like, and again, there's beat switches on stuff like that. It is peak Preemo. But when we're looking at peak Preemo, we've got to go on to the next one. Oh, actually, no. First of all, I've got to ask you about the album cover. Because for me, out of these three that you're bringing, dope album covers for sure. Gang Starr bringing it on all these levels. But man, the album cover to Daily Operation. What are your thoughts on that?
Poster. It ended up a poster.
Oh, okay.
And see, the thing is that there's an alternate photo taken from the shoot, this particular shoot, and it's in sepia tone. And it was put in, I believe, The Source as a full page. And everyone took that, cut it out, took a razor or an X-Acto knife, cut it out, and taped it to their wall.
Damn.
I had it on my wall as a kid. I was a creative director of an album by a kid by the name of Alage. And Alage. And if you find that album, I actually input it on Discogs. You will find the inserts for that album, and you'll see that picture, mine, that I cut off my wall. I took off my wall when I moved from that apartment, and I kept it. And when it was like, yo, I'm thinking about doing this thing, this line, have all these classic albums, these classic tapes. I provided the tapes. I provided all the posters, which were cut out of old Source magazines.
That is wild. Damn.
So so if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you find Alage's the throwaway tapes, I think it's called, or the throwaway session, something like that, you go to Discogs, look that up. You will find that alternate picture in sepia tone that everybody had in their wall that I'm talking about.
That is mad. Because again, they're working on levels where, I mean, we've on this run, we're talking about a lot of incredible artists who have got not just their eye on the music, but on the way their music is portrayed. Clearly, they're doing that with that album cover, man. Like, you've got Malcolm X, you've got the typewriter. It's almost like a mafia feel as well as the conscious feel. And again, it's stuff that I didn't really see much of. I didn't see that where, I mean, BDP probably, they had that as well. For
and
sure.
Public Enemy.
And for sure, Public Enemy. But like, I remember in the mid-90s, it wasn't layered like that for me. But it was just the albums I was listening to. There wasn't that, the layers were in the music. And the covers, I remember that cover just thinking, how fucking cool Guru looks there. Like, just with his jacket like hanging off and shit. Oh, man. Yeah, so I had to just talk about that album cover. But then 94 comes along, man.
Oh, yes.
Hard to Earn comes out. So this is a few years later.
Mm-hmm.
How have they evolved from Daily Operation, and how are they pushing forward the sound and basically the genre generally?
Well, one crucial thing we have to remember about Hard to Earn. Guru has stepped himself up a notch as like the man with the voice, right?
For sure.
And also Premier has established himself as like the man as far as production is concerned. If you want any proof of that, the interlude I Chill. Listen to the people on I Chill that leave messages. And one of the coolest things about it is, yo, this Nas. Then you hear jazz in the background. He doesn't say shit else. He's just like, all right, then, chill. I'm like, what was the message about? What did you want? It's like the coolest thing possible.
Yeah.
Because everybody else called with a specific purpose, you know? DJ Premier, you leaving a message on his answering machine. What do you want? You know?
Yeah.
So like, and then you think about like Master Ace calls. He's like, hey, yo, I just want to ask you a question about this equipment that I'm hooking up. Because, you know, I'm trying to fuck people's heads up with the beats like you do. He actually did the scratches, I believe, on Saturday Night Live on Slaughterhouse.
I was going to say, yeah. He was getting on the boards, yeah.
And like Master Ace was like, it evolved into like a producer, you know? And so it made sense to hear him on that. But like, you're listening to it. And then what this also did was this made everybody want to have an I Chill moment. Or you want to be so cool that you be on the next I Chill.
Yeah.
So that interlude was almost like it was a game changer in of itself. But as far as this album is concerned, man, like this is the joint, because you gotta remember this comes out around the same time Nas drops Illmatic.
Yeah, not
you know, it's like, and you just have to think that this is what Nas had to compete with.
Yeah.
And also, like, we have A Long Way to Go opens the album. That's the album opener. But
even before that little bit is when Guru's going off. Like this is a thing when this is my favorite. Well, actually, it's not my favorite as much now, but because I've been listening to all of their albums recently. But Hard to Earn's always been my go-to, and it's just the anger, man. They're just not happy. They're just like, we fuck you guys, man. Like, if you want to be on our level, be on our level. And that is directed to a lot of people who just think that, yeah, you know, you get to know someone and you can be on their tracks and whatever. And nah, man, they ain't playing. They are not playing with this album. So
a lot of it had to do with the fact that so many people went digging in the liner notes for Daily Operation and found no answers. Yeah. So they were approaching them for the next 2 years, wondering what they used, what was on what, how they did what they did. And also Premier had become an in-demand producer. He's on a lot of people's hot albums by that time. So, you know, it's also around the time that you got like Guru stepping out and doing his like own production. You know, you have Jazzmatazz happening, all these other things. So it was a statement to like, yo, I understand that y'all love us. I understand that a lot of y'all are trying to emulate us, but keep it cool. because y'all are going above and beyond and you're doing too much. And let me explain to you like an adult does. And let me show you like proper etiquette in a way you can understand.
Yeah.
And how this works. Because again, when I was talking about 92 to 94, a lot of us were understanding what not to do. And some of us were younger, some of us were older. So that didn't trickle down to everybody, because you got to remember, man, the eras change and there's a new wave every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So the audience for that Gang Starr album, Step in the Arena, has a whole new wave, maybe 20-25% that bought into Daily Operation, and then there's a 25% more that bought in for the Hard to Earn. So you have to repeat some things.
For
you have to
sure.
some things, and you have to teach. And he does it at the beginning of the album, and that set a standard, because it's kind of what Mobb Deep did at the beginning of The Infamous. You know, hey, yo, let me just say, and also it happened again on the interlude on Only Built for Cuban Links. You know, at some point you have to like explain things, and you have to talk to the audience, you know? But I think a lot of it had to do with my man right here, Guru, laying the foundation with the very first thing on this album you hear before you get to A Long Way to Go, the first step. But this album, man, it's the bridge, right? Because the golden era is 92 to 96, right? So you got 92, the opening, 94 is the bridge. This is when everything goes crazy. We get Nas and Biggie, and this album drops before them both.
Oh man, forget it. And Preemo's working with those people as well, like you said. So that's the crazy thing about this. When you look at
Preemo is all over Illmatic, and
all over,
he's
man.
On Ready to Die.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite Biggie tracks as well, all time. One of mine. This is the thing, because when you get to Hard to Earn, there's a lot of different avenues we can explore with this album, and especially that evolution of, oh wow, they're trying this, and it's a bit grittier, or I don't know if it's just me, but it's a little bit less up tempo, a little bit like, it feels a bit more like, you know, you got to listen to this, and but then obviously you have DWYCK, and that doesn't sound like that at all. But then again, that wasn't supposed to be on the album. I don't know, break it down for the listeners, man. The whole DWYCK thing, and I mean that was out for a while before this was even on the album, right?
Yes,
so
it was. So the other thing too is that, all right, with DWYCK there was a soundtrack. The soundtrack was White Men Can't Jump, right? Gang Starr produces a song called Now You're Mine. At the time they recorded it, they were beefing. So the entire recording session was contentious. Premier tells the story, and it's funny. He tells it, and he has trouble like telling it without laughing. But it was really tense at the time, but they got over it. But like during that stretch, it was like, you put out a single, you need a B-side. And of course they were hanging out with, you know, Nice and Smooth. Those are their boys. Always around. So they were like, oh, here's a beat that I got.
Sick.
And you know, the swing is something that like, if you ever watched like Nice and Smooth, they would like do this dance where they like do this, like swing their arms. They always had that. And you know, Greg Nice, the debate's been made whether or not he freestyled every verse, but it's very clear that Smooth B is one of the most underrated verse writers in rap ever. He has so many impeccable verses that like are so quotable, but you know, they happen to be around and they gave flavor to the song that made it more than just a Gang Starr song. It made it like an anthem. It made it a timeless song. So you could release DWYCK in 92, 93, or 94. You could have played it anytime between 92 and 94 and people would lose their minds. And it's a party. And then you can't say that about a whole bunch of like supposed underground rap acts where this is the song that sets the party off, you know? And I think a lot of people after the fact can't understand that. But also another key thing about Hard to Earn that people don't realize, there are samples listed. Not all of them, but some.
Right. So why is that then? Why are they listing just a few there then?
Well, because sometimes you're obligated to list some of the samples, and some of the more obscure ones that you cleared, you get to keep quiet. But they got into a lot of trouble, not financially, but like the reason why he even had to lead off the album like that, from not listing any of them.
Yeah.
You know, at least give them crumbs. Because you look at some of these samples listed, and it's like it's one song. It's like, you sample 3 things on there. You sample 3 things on there. But also by 94, again, when I talked about the new diggers, they had become more seasoned. Mm-hmm. So they figured out ways to find what something was, or if you couldn't, you could at least figure out who the artist was. But they knew to shut their mouths as opposed to blabbing.
Yeah.
So
so that's interesting then. So if you're a new digger, is it a process of going to the record stores, talking to people, and just constantly listening to older tracks constantly? That seems so different to what today is, right? Like, I don't think kids have the time to do that. Like, or they have the time, but they don't use that time to do that, right? And it feels like just an interesting time in hip hop, man. Just a very interesting time in hip hop.
I mean, absolutely. And the thing was that this was a pursuit of ours, and we weren't alone. It was like a big scavenger hunt where you run into new people. So think of it like an RPG game, and like more people get added to your party.
Yeah.
You go on the mission. It's like, hey, I'm Giles. Hi, Giles. Giles is added to your party. Giles is digging for samples with you.
That's incredible.
Then you go through his inventory, and he's like, oh shit, he knows 3 samples I didn't know. And now we're getting closer because I know things he doesn't know. And then like you have a group, and this is how a lot of rap groups and crews ended up becoming what they became. The Beatnuts became the Beatnuts because they were both 2 dudes that were crazy about digging for records, finding horns and stuff like that, and doing the parties. Digging in the Crates became a whole bunch of people that were associated around the Bronx, and then they brought in people from other places, and they became the best of the best. And Premier became like an auxiliary member because he was down with all of them. So like, and a lot of that came from, of course, being the kids looking for breaks or sample sources or just sounds from certain records that we couldn't identify. And I think a person who deserves a lot of credit for that too, salute to J-Zone, we have talked about this several times, is DJ Mark the 45 King. To this day, we don't know a lot of what he used, and he will never tell us, and we love it.
Man, this is the thing, right? For people out there who think 90s like hip hop is one thing, there's so many other things going on at the same time, man. There's all these little subcultures. There's all these little, like you said, crate diggers, new diggers, whatever. And then obviously we get to Backpacker, and man, your book. Everyone do get out, check out Dart's book of essays, the Book of Dart, because I've learned a lot, bro, just listening to that. Just reading that, and again, that comes through like the backpacking whole idea of the backpacker. It comes out as hip hop evolves. But just bringing it back to Hard to Earn, though, it would be remiss not to talk about probably my favourite Gang Starr track of all time, and a lot of other people's, Mass Appeal, man. Like, where were you when you heard that? Where were you, and what did it do to you, man, when you first heard that? So
I first heard Mass Appeal. Again, this album was released on EMI Chrysalis. So I heard this in 1994. I was it my senior year? My junior year. I believe it was my junior year in high school, because Nazil Matter came out my junior year. So It was my junior year in high school, and my brother was like a well-known rapper, producer. I was like in the scene or whatever, but we knew everybody that worked for every label. So we knew all the street team people, the promotional people, the DJs, and when they brought out promo materials to all the radio stations or the DJs and stuff, they would just give it to my brother and I. So I heard advance of the single Mass Appeal, my brother and I did, and we were like, we're looking at each other. Now, mind you, I'm somebody who's like been around DJs since I was like 3-4 years old. Like when they were like hiding the things on the label, I was the kid right there looking at the crates to figure out what the break was. I could read it 2.5. So I was reading the back of albums you know, at 2 or 3, at like 1978. So my younger brother grew up with that whole thing, and we're just like, he's a producer, and we're just like, what? Dun, 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 dun. And then the scratching and then the sound, and like we're just like, this is next level. And
That's exactly it.
We're just like entranced. And then what happens is the single officially gets released. So when it first comes out, it hits radio first, right? Because the thinking is that you send the advance, the DJs listen to it, they decide if they want to play it, then they play it that Friday throughout the weekend, right? Tuesday in the United States is the release day. In the UK, it's like Monday to make it the same day because of time differences. Yeah. Which is something that I had to read and figure out that happened. Because a lot of times US publications will print the UK or European release date and get it a day off because they don't understand that. And that's another issue I always have with people. But the thing is that the idea is that you get it, you play it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, release date is Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you go buy it, and you buy it from then on because now it's in the rotation and it starts getting added at all the radio stations in Boston. So that was one wave. The second wave is when the video comes out. The video hits Yo MTV Raps and Rap City on BET. But since it's really jazzy and smooth, in America, we have BET. So the man we call the unseen VJ, Alvin Johnson, adds it to video vibrations.
Right.
And when he adds something to video vibrations, and mind you, a lot of the reason why I'm so well versed in a lot of UK and European music is because a lot of American DJs would go back and forth to the UK and had connects to the UK. And because Alvin Jones, the unseen VJ, would play a whole lot of songs and videos straight from Britain and the UK and Europe. So like we knew DJ Richie Rich from the UK. My DJ, he could, we knew Derek B because of him, you know? So like I heard a lot. The first time I ever heard Omar Lee Fook was on that show. So like, and you know, like, it wasn't just like NME or like something like that. But like the point I'm making is that like Mass Appeal was given that special space where, it's a rap song. It's a rap single, but it's smooth, it's mellow, and it's something we're going to play everywhere. And that's when I was like, whoa. And that really made a lot of people go out and buy the album because of Mass Appeal. A lot of times with Gang Starr albums, what happened was people would hear the first single, they'd be like, cool, and then they would buy it later if they liked the next single. Mass Appeal made people go out and buy the album immediately because No More Mr. Nice Guy, if you go and look at the charts, it didn't chart immediately. It didn't chart for a while. Like a lot of times, like it didn't really chart until after people heard Jazz Thing. And then that's what made people go, oh, wow, Gang Starr.
And they went back, Yeah,
and they went back. So that's nuts. But Mass Appeal was the song that put this album on the radar. And then once they heard the album, it was a wrap.
Yeah, bud. Absolutely. And again, Preemo, he was talking to us and he was saying how he just did that rush sampling. And he calls it rush sampling, where he just quickly just dropping the needle, bang, finds that. And you're like, I'm sure you know the sample, but for anyone who hasn't heard the sample, go on YouTube. People have broken that sample down, and it's not an overstatement to say that is pure genius. Like that is genius on any level, any art level. To get that and make it to this, forget about it. That's what it's about. And then Guru on top with his monotone style, calm and wild like a seashore and all that shit, man. Every you know what I mean? Like there's layers to it. And I feel like Mass Appeal for me, like you said there, it's another level. That's exactly what I felt. It's gone and just upped it a notch, and it's just galvanized everything. Because they're a sound by now, right? Like they're a sound onto their own. Like it's the Gang Starr sound. It's the boom bap sound, and KRS, Return of the Boom Bap. That's where it came from, right? Boom bap, the term boom bap, or am I being wrong there? I don't know. I thought the
It's
term may
what
have come.
popularized it, but it's what people always saying because people would say on record, the boom, the bap, the boom bap. So he just said return of the boom bap.
So he just popularized it more than anything.
It was something that was like always around.
Okay, fair enough, cool. Because that's the first time I remember really seeing it, but yeah.
Yeah, but this album, good Lord. The Code of the Streets.
Yeah.
The Planet, where he explains this whole story of him leaving Boston and going to Brooklyn. DWYCK is on here at number 9, halfway through the album, which is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Words from the Nutcracker, which made people think that Malachi the Nutcracker might actually be able to rap. They put Mass Appeal on side B.
I know. That's crazy.
That. Suckers Need Bodyguards.
That is heavy.
They reintroduce Matapan or Murderpan's own Suge with FALA.
That is a banger. Mostly
the voice, like Now You're Mine, which is actually the song that was on the soundtrack that I was talking about, White Man Can't Jump. Think about how perfectly sequenced this album is. Tons of Guns, after Brainstorm, and after Code of the Streets, which ends up a single.
What a run. What a sequence. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like there's so much on here, right? And this kind of set the stage for what we needed you to do in 1994. And then like when Illmatic came out, everybody was like, okay, now we're on notice. And then when Ready to Die dropped, people were like, wait, so not only do we have to make an incredible album, but we have to make singles?
Yeah.
Too? Like, what? Like, come on. Because if you listen to Ready to Die, you have to realize that Ready to Die, the versions on the album are not the versions that blew up. One More Chance, that that remix is not the song that blew up over the holiday season off the album, right?
Yeah.
But this album, what you heard on the album was the single, you know? But as far as like a concise body of work, perfectly sequenced, they set the standard for what you needed to do in 1994 going forward. And I believe this was released in like March 94. So that means that it was done by 93, which is insane to think about. They finished this album in late 93 and released it in 94, and people were listening to it in 95, 96 like, all right, this is what we need to be on.
Yeah. He was 3 years ahead of the fucking curve, man. That's crazy.
Insane to think that.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've talked about rewindables, hidden gems on here. I had that blue sample to the intro to the planet. I just that little sample at the beginning of that is, one of my favorite moments of Preemo moments generally. Is there a track on there where you feel is a bit more like deserving of a bit of love? I mean, the whole album's amazing, but is there one on there?
For me, I'd have to say it's FALA because it's the song with Suge on there. But the thing is that Big Suge is a dude that's really gruff and his voice is gravelly, and you have him next to Guru, who also has that distinctive voice. And it's a song where they're not rapping fast, but it's bouncy and it's up tempo enough to give you the illusion that they're rapping faster than they are, and they're being more energetic than they are. Listen to the fuck around, lay around too, and then there's that whistle, and then the scratches, fuck around, you lay around. The song is up tempo, and your head's nodding. They are not rapping fast. They are rapping pretty steady pace, but the song is up tempo, so it gives you the illusion that the song is faster and more energetic than it actually is. And that's a magic trick. And that's why I have to pick that song. It's interesting. It's incredible that how he was able to do that. And it just shows you how much of a incredible producer that DJ Premier was, and how he and Guru worked as a unit. Because I believe Premier said that how they worked was they first they came up with song titles. And then they went from there.
Yeah.
And what? I
Yeah.
mean,
How'd
the
you do
only other group I know of that like came up with names for stuff and then filled out everything else later was like that's how the Bomb Squad worked. You know, they wouldn't even do that with groups. Here's the name of the group. We'll figure it out later. Son of Berserk. What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah. They were having like post-it notes on the wall, weren't they? That's what Preemo was saying.
Leaders of the new school. What?
Yeah.
Huh? Young black teenagers, and then they end up being white guys. Like, talk about sticking to the format, you know?
Yeah, so true. So true. Well, Dart, there's two things I need to ask you here then, especially from Hard to Earn. The first thing is people have talked about, well, in my personal sphere, about like just kind of ranking these albums generally. They're all incredible, but I thought like Hard to Earn being in my top like 1 or 2. And I got a bit of grief on social platforms on that. And yeah, I was wondering what your ranking is of like maybe top 3, 4. Like I know they probably change, but roughly like where
of top Gang Starr albums?
Yeah,
it's to me. This one is up there. I put this above Daily Operation.
Okay.
Because this is a step up. It's like with some people's catalogs, you have to look. I think you have to look at catalogs case by case basis. If you look at like Guy's catalog, nobody puts their second album above their first album. You know.
Yeah.
But like with Public Enemy, everybody puts their second album above their first album. Some people put their second album even above their third album, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Every group has a different dynamic. Like with EPMD, I wouldn't put EPMD's first or second album above their third or fourth. And to me, that's the same case with Gang Starr.
Yeah.
They're all classics, but they just figured out more things. And then also I have to play the era it came out in, and then the field. So 1994 is a pivotal year, as I said before. It has Illmatic in it. It has Ready to Die in it. There's a bunch of other crucial, seminal albums in that year. Then you have to factor in other things like, all right, perfect example, right? The UMCs come out in 1991, right? With Fruits of Nature. The album with Blue Cheese and what's the One to Grow On and like Never Neverland, like all these songs. And like think about 1991. The UMCs had 1991 is one of the most competitive years in rap history. But UMCs made 2 #1 rap hits in that year. And then Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs come out and they make 3 top rap hits in that year. But like that album doesn't go gold, their album doesn't go gold. You know? But you look at 1994, which is also a super hyper competitive year. Look at where Hard to Earn ranks in setting up that year and in those albums of that year.
Yeah.
And when I look at Versus 91, when I look at Versus 92, I look at Versus 98, this one goes at the top.
Okay, that's a really good argument. Yeah, because it's the context it's coming out in as well. And that year, like you said, is, well, it's right at the heart of this next golden era that you've established for us earlier. If we're then going on then, 98, Moment of Truth. Just personally, this is the first Gang Starr album I really, truly fell in love with as a kid. So just on a sentimental value, this is something I'm going to love to discuss with you. My first question to you is this. We have a 3-album run and you didn't go for Step in the Arena. You went for Moment of Truth.
Absolutely.
Why is that? Why did you go for that? Because I know a lot of people would have gone the other way.
Because this is the moment. This is the moment. Think about film, right? When you make a film, they say, all right, if you're going to do a biopic, you need to look at a span of 10 to 15 years. And you need that moment, that part where you come out on the stage, that part where you're acknowledged, that part where you reach the pinnacle. When you think about the movie Ray, when Ray, what was that moment for Ray, you know, that you needed to have in Ray? When you think about like, perfect example, the movie about Queen, right?
Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah.
Yes. Bohemian Rhapsody. What's the moment? The moment is when Freddie Mercury is on stage at Live Aid in '85. He's sick. He's down. He doesn't want everybody to know that. And he goes to his depths and he pulls out one of the all-time great performances that they recreate for the film. I went to the theater to see that. And I remember sitting in the theater and like it's me and my brother. And we're just like, yo, why are my allergies acting up? You know what I'm saying? It's the moment. And the fucking moment for Gang Starr is this. And I'm going to give you an extra reason why I'm biased. I'm from Boston. Gang Starr had their homecoming. They had the entire Gang Starr Foundation with them. They had Crumb Snatcher, who's from Lawrence, Mass, who's on Make Them Pay. They had Suge was with them. Salute Big Suge. He was there. I went with my boy who passed away since to bring him his sound, his demo. He met Suge in the hospital. I believe Suge was getting something, some dental work, and he was there because he broke a hand or something. And they started talking about rap. His name was Smacks at the time, Eddie Jackson. And he was like, yo, I'll tell you what, I could bring you my demo. I don't have it on me. He's like, hey, yo, won't you just come down to Tower Records? Because Gang Starr's is getting their star retired outside of Tower Records. And he told them the date. And he was like, just give your name to the people. So me and Eddie went to Gang Starr, getting their star at the Boston Walk of Fame in front of Tower Records. It was their homecoming. It was the acknowledgement of Gang Starr, Posse, crew, the Gang Starr name, because there were two Gang Stars. There was the Gang Starr that was operating in New York on Wild Pitch, K-Tel, and then later just Wild Pitch because K-Tel was no longer the distributor. And then there was another one in Boston working as a Gang Starr Posse, who released several singles, like Read the Label and everything else. So it was Lil Smitty, it was King Shab, now known as Sandro Castro. It was DJ Mike D, aka Want to Be Down. But like that was happening. But then when they got with EMI, they had to cease operations. So they changed their name to Posse and Effects. And they released the album in 1991 on Critique Records, which is a local Boston, Massachusetts label called Black or You're White, which is, I think, the first video that Hype Williams ever directed.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So, but this is the moment. There's the interlude on here where someone asks Suge about, yo, why did Guru leave Boston and then not acknowledge us? And he acknowledges it on this album. And there was a reason why it was done, because he knew he was coming home. And he finally got his recognition. He finally got his homecoming after all these years. And this is the album that finally went gold. It's the album that broke through. This is the album that got the write-up, the magazine covers, even though they had the source cover, but like the magazine covers. This is the one that got them over. This is the one that got them all the recognition that they deserved for all their years of hard work and toiling. So this is the moment. This is the movie moment. So there's no way I could do a 3-album run without leaving off this album.
Okay, man.
This is Freddie Mercury at Live Aid. This is Ray getting his proper finally when he comes back to Georgia, and they make Georgia on My Mind the official song. You know, this is the moment. Yeah.
Man, what a beautiful way to put that, man. What a beautiful way to put that. Because I have a completely different history with that album. But hearing that just like kind of galvanizes again that feeling for me. I remember getting cuts to my eyebrows purely because of Guru. Like when I saw that You Know My Steez video, I mean, he'd had it before, but I remember like about 16, 17, I was like, yeah, I reckon I could pull that off. And just, it really was because Guru carried it, and it's just You Know My Steez alone. That I remember seeing that video before I got this album, and I remember seeing that video, and that video that sums up the whole thing for me, because that was, I think it's a play on THX 1138 as well.
Absolutely.
And that, I was a film geek at that time, so it hit me on that level. It hit me on the hip hop level. I remember there was one bar on that track, which was The rejected stone is now the cornerstone. And that, I remember as where I grew up, me putting a Woo CD on in my mate's car, that's getting dashed. It would last 10 seconds and it's getting dashed because they weren't into hip hop and they were like, what the like, this isn't mixed, this doesn't even sound very good. It's like, it's not supposed to sound, it's fucking Woo. But that's where I was coming from. And when I heard that and when I saw this and then I heard the production, when he says we've updated our formulas, they've literally updated their formulas. As in, it feels like Gang Starr have gone from Daily Operation and then upped it, as we said, with Hard to Earn. And then this is just turning it all up to 11 or something, where they're like, how does Premier do that, man? I don't even know if it's the engineering or what, but yeah.
Also, another reason why, if you look at the back of the album, it says it's on New Tribe, Virgin Records. The reason being is that EMI no longer existed. So I'm gonna give I could tell you on this. I could tell you this because by the time this comes out, it would have already have happened.
Okay.
So this right here is AZ's Do or Die. It was released October 10th, 1995 on what label? EMI. He was signed by EMI after his run on Nas's Life's a Bitch, right? So he releases his first single, Sugar Hill. He thinks he sold out. The single goes gold. It blows up unexpectedly. And it took a while to get there, but it like really took off in like late July, August. So by September, the first week of September, it's gold. The album gets released the next month in October. And it becomes the #1 album in black music in Billboard, right? But he's on EMI. Are you aware that by the time this album made its full run, EMI is no longer in existence?
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
EMI goes bankrupt. EMI's done. So he ends up on New Tribe along with Gang Starr. And that's why there's such a delay in AZ's next album. And that's why there's such a delay in the next Gang Starr album, because they were going back and forth with their different label situations.
Right. Okay.
Plus, there were all the side projects that Premier was doing. Premier was off, doing his thing with other people and stuff, had his side projects. And so was Guru. Guru was developing acts. He had Muhammadiyah, So like he was off, everybody was off doing their thing. He had the Cutthroats. But the Gang Starr Foundation was pretty much under Premier's purview. So it took a while for them to get it back together and get in the studio and get the budget and get the deal and everything else to put that album out. So when it finally did come out, it's like, you wonder how hard is it to stay sharp when you released your last album in the middle of a golden era. It's over. The Jiggy era has started. The Jiggy era is on his run. There's no more hard drums. There's no more dirty sounds. And here you guys come, a relic of the past, and you think you're going to drop an album. And what they do is they drop the album of their careers. Not as far as quality, but the album of their careers in terms of this makes it so that they can release full clip. This makes it so that they end up the group that Christina Aguilera seeks out DJ Premier. And he's like, what do you want to work with me for? And then she starts naming Gang Starr album tracks, not singles.
That's amazing.
Album tracks. And he's like, what? So again, when we're talking about the movie or the biopic of Gang Starr, this is part of that moment. And it doesn't happen without Moment of Truth. It's the perfect fucking title for the album. Moment of Truth. Everything is on here. You got In Memory Of. You got The Rep Grows Bigger. B.I. versus Friendship. JFK to LAX, where he tells the story finally of his arrest and what happened. You get the Militia.
Militia is crazy.
The Militia, you get Above the Clouds.
Mate, one of the best features in the 90s. One of the best features in the 90s.
Wild Like Rock Stars who smash guitars. Like
yeah.
The Clouds My Sofa. Here's what's crazy. I met Inspectah Deck last year. So I live in, again, Boston. In Somerville, Mass, we have this thing called Bull Market. In Bull Market, we have these two things that we go to all the time. We have Union Sound, which is a storefront that's interactive for like all the producers and the beat scene people. I go there, and it's right next door to a wonderful record store ran by 7L of both 7L and Esoteric and Starbase.
Snap.
And when I went, they were doing a special Starbase event. And who happens to be there? But none other than Inspectah Deck. I meet Inspectah Deck for the first time in my life, just talking with people. He's talking with SO and a whole bunch of other folks. And I say, hey, what's up? He's like, hey, what up? He's like, this is my boy Dart Adams. He's like, oh, you're Dart Adams? Oh, yo, what's up?
What?
Because we have mutual friends and stuff like that. And we end up talking about a whole bunch of other stuff. And we end up having this big protracted conversation about rap. And I pull up his verse on Above the Clouds.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, that was just me doing my thing or whatever. And I'm just like,
what?
You have so many classic lead-off verses, though.
Yeah.
And it was so weird to have this conversation with like an all-time great and emceeing. But to him, he's just a guy who's doing his job and he has a baby on the way. Damn. You know? I just do what I do. And it was so weird that it was me and my friends, and to him, he's just having a conversation with his peers. But to me, it was like, you're Inspectah Deck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then it hit me, was like, yo, he was like, oh, I know you. That's so mad. Yeah, man. But that song is one of the many things that cements this as the end of the run and the punctuation. Yeah. The run ends here. This is the punctuation. This is the movie. This is after this is when you start putting the paragraphs. Yeah. In white above the screen, telling the story after that. And then telling where everybody is now and what happened. And Gang Starr has done this and this and this and this and influenced this many people. Yes. Yeah. And then you have the final picture, hopefully the sepia tone picture that I was talking about, and just have that imposed on the screen, R.I.P., R.I.P. Keith Elam, Guru, the voice, it's mostly the voice, and we'll love you forever. Yeah. And then like the final song that they picked to play out, you know what I'm saying? But man. But again, I don't see how you can say you can start with another album or finish with another album. That's the run.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, mate. Absolutely, I feel that, and I feel like not just on that element of this is emphatically them breaking through, but on a personal level, I don't think there's the heart or like. I listen to Moment of Truth, even we talk about most rewindable moments on these tracks. Just the woman saying we must face the moment of truth, that gets me to my soul, bro. As in, like, I get goosebumps when I hear that. And the way Guru breaks down everything in that track and just lays it all out there. That's an artist laying his soul out there, and it's vulnerable, and it's something different to. But then you hear the Militia, and you hear Freddie Fox with possibly the hardest line, by the way. Still makes me laugh out loud to this day, where he's your nose is dripping and draining blood, and I'm above you saying what?
Yeah.
Name me a harder line than that. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like there's this heart and just soul to what Guru does, and I met Guru once and it was one of the defining moments of my life, because he was saying to me things that I never thought a legend would say to anyone. It all culminated with him just saying to me, I do this because of people like you. And we were in a nightclub, we'd had a few drinks, but that moment and then the moment of truth at the same time, that to me is kind of blended in one. And this album bridges a time of me growing from like sixth form, where we are here, like college, and university, where I truly found rap heads, from where I had no rap heads, and that track, this album, personally, it just emphasizes all of that for me. But Dartman, this has been incredible. The way you've broken all this down, the analogies you've used, the passion, the insight. I've learnt lots. I hope people have got notepads out there, man, because this stuff, I should have took some fucking notes down here. But I just wanted to hear one last thing then from you, man. Basically, we have like a 30-second conclusion of why you think this should be the run that is the run of the 90s, the best 3-album run. Could you sum it up in 30 seconds for me?
Yes. Gang Starr and the Gang Starr Foundation established and founded what is the aesthetic of East New York rap. And that ended up spilling out into becoming the foundation of the aesthetic of grimy East Coast rap. And that spread out and became the foundation for the aesthetic of grimy underground rap, period.
Boom.
Okay? Whether we're talking about MOP, whether we're talking about Black Moon and everything Duck Down did with the Beat Miners, whether we're talking about anything anybody did afterwards in underground indie rap, white labels, indie records from 97 going forward. The foundation was laid by Guru and Premier. And without Guru and Premier and also Pete Rock and CL Smooth's albums between 92 and 94 going forward, we never get this guy named Jay Dilla who wants to emulate his heroes and surpass them. So, domino, motherfucker.
What a way to end it. And you ended it with Jay Dilla, man. Like, come on, man. Shining tattoo right there. That's that. You got me. It's already there, man. So, Dart, man, that is incredible. I hope the listeners have enjoyed this. I know I fully have. And man, just Gang Starr. I know we're going to hopefully do an IG live when this comes out. So we'll be taking some questions from the listeners and stuff like that, hopefully as well with yourself. And yeah, man, I mean, it only leaves me with a few things for you here, bro, which is, first of all, I need to hear one thing from you, right?
Yeah.
Your book, as I've said, go out there, people, go check it out, The Book of Dart. In there, you do talk expansively about a lot of different subjects. And one of the ones that really hit home, and we've already talked to, you used film analogy before, but you in there have this brilliant chapter about how hip-hop needs its own Almost Famous and High Fidelity.
Absolutely.
2 films I adore. Now, can people please crowdfund something where Dart, I would love for you to write something like that. Have you gone into that sphere of documentary or even like dramatizing some of this?
Absolutely. I have 3 different film treatments already in the works for this era. I have one that's it's a story set in my neighborhood back in 1987, the last week of August to the first or second week of September. And it's called The Lesson. It's called The Lesson because that's the name of Gang Starr's first single that was released on Wild Pitch K-Tel when they got their deal.
Yeah.
I can send you the actual press release from when Gang Starr released their first single.
Damn.
I'll send it to you after this.
Yes, please.
And so the picture I sent you a picture of them at Downtown Recorders, which is down the street. That is from that press release.
Oh,
that's where it came from. So I had that picture. People were like, where'd you get that picture from? Salute Brian Coleman, the writer of Rakim Told Me, and I'm looking at them right now because I have original copies. They're both signed.
Wicked.
That's not a flex. The liner notes albums, but I mean books, which are huge. But he's the guy who found it because he went through the archives, and also one of our friends, Pacey Foster, was given the entire archive of the late great Magnus Johnstone, who had the Leco's Lemma radio show, which all of the early Boston, Massachusetts, New England rap acts went to get seen and heard, including Gang Starr. And if you go to there's the archive, the Mass Hip Hop Archive, Massachusetts Mass Hip Hop Archive, you can find all of their demo songs.
Whoa.
Online, digital. You can hear them all for yourself. I posted links. Don't go to my. Hopefully, by the time this is up, I will have gotten my my Twitter account back. But if not, just go straight to the Massachusetts Hip Hop Archive and listen to all the early Gang Starr Foundation, all the other Gang Starr Posse and crew songs produced by Beatmaster V. It's Guru. It's Mike D has a couple of songs where he rapped on. Lil Smitty, Damo D Ski.
Oh,
his name I haven't mentioned. He was on Gusto. But yeah, also, and then like listen to the old Gang Starr Posse songs from Boston.
Okay,
man. On 1-2 Down Records.
Wicked. Look at this. The gems we're giving you guys, man. Just keep digging. Love this era for this, man. Well, Dart, man, thank you again for your time. Thank you for your passion, your knowledge. It just leaves me with one thing then, man, which is we ask every guest, what's the last great piece of music you heard? Could be old, could be new, just the last great piece. And it can't be Gang Starr because all we've done is Gang Starr at the moment.
The last great piece of music I heard was actually I just finished listening to Elzai's album.
Oh, the new one.
Elzai's new album is incredible. I had that on repeat before I even got on here. I was just playing it. And before that, I was playing Salt's Rise Untitled. And so I'd say those, I go back and forth with Krang Ben, the latest Krang Ben record too. So yeah, man, all those.
Love that, Dart. Love that. All three heavy. So people go check them out, man. So yeah, man, until the next time, Dart, we're going to lock this in and let's see what the people have got to say about this Gang Starr episode, bro. But until the next time, we'd love to have you on again at some point. But peace out, keep smashing it and just keep bringing the flavor, bro. Just keep doing you. That's what we want.
I'm from Boston. I don't know how to do anything else.
That's it, man. But yeah, peace out, bro. And we'll catch you soon.
All right, one.